You know what's wild? Most people are still overpaying for car insurance just because it's a pain to switch. That's why there's Jerry. Jerry's the only app that compares rates from over 50 insurers in minutes and helps you switch fast with no spam calls or hidden fees. Drivers who save with Jerry could save over $1,300 a year. Before you renew your car insurance policy, do yourself a favor. Download the Jerry app or head to jerry.ai/Libsyn. That's JERRY.ai/LIBSYN.
Hey listeners, this is Peter and welcome back to the History Shorts. Today's episode is brought to you by the Podcast Republic, your ultimate listening app. Discover and subscribe to thousands of podcasts from around the world. Download Podcast Republic today, available on Google Play and the Apple App Store. Today on History Shorts. On January 26, 1945, near the French town of Holtzwihr, a 20-year-old Texan climbed onto a burning tank destroyer. It was loaded with fuel and ammunition. It could have exploded at any moment. He grabbed the .50 caliber machine gun mounted on top and opened fire on an attacking force of German infantry and tanks, holding them off, alone, for nearly an hour, while directing artillery strikes by telephone with his other hand. He was wounded, but he kept firing. When it was over, the German attack had been stopped. Approximately 50 enemy soldiers were dead. For that action alone, Audie Murphy received the Medal of Honor, the highest military decoration the United States can bestow. It was not the first medal he had earned, and it would not be his last. Our history brief today returns to some strange history. A quick word from our sponsors.
This is Jana Kramer from Wind Down with Jana Kramer. Instead of giving your mom something that fades, give her something that becomes part of her home this Mother's Day. The Lennox Spice Village is a set of 24 hand-painted little houses that are actually spice jars, perfect for anyone who loves to cook, entertain, or enjoy the little details that make everyday life special. As a mom, I love gifts that help turn ordinary moments into memories. Charming, timeless, and meant to be used, this is one of those pieces she'll treasure. And once you see it, you'll want it for your own home too. Find the full collection at lennox.com/spicevillage.
This day in history. On April 12, 1861, Confederate forces fired on Fort Sumter in South Carolina, beginning the American Civil War. On April 12, 1961, Soviet cosmonaut Yuri Gagarin became the first human to travel into space, orbiting Earth aboard Vostok 1. Story of the day. Audie Leon Murphy was born on June 20th, 1924, in a small farmhouse in Hunt County, Texas. He was one of 12 children born to Emmett and Josie Murphy, sharecroppers who scratched a living from land that they did not own in the hardest years of the Depression. The poverty was genuine and grinding. Audie learned to hunt as a child, not as a sport, but as a necessity, putting food on the table with a rifle because, well, there was often no other way. His father abandoned the family when Audie was just a teenager. His mother died in 1941 when he was 16. The younger children were placed in an orphanage, but Audie was left largely on his own. He was small, about 5 feet 5 inches, and barely 110 pounds when he tried to enlist. He was also, as the world was about to discover, possessed of a physical courage that defied every outward measure of the man. He tried to enlist immediately after Pearl Harbor. Every branch turned him down. He was too young, too small, and too underweight. But he persisted. In 1942, at the age of 17, with his sister falsifying his birth certificate to add a year, the Army accepted him. His early training officers tried to transfer him to a cook's position, but he refused. He was assigned to the 3rd Infantry Division instead, one of the most combat-hardened divisions in the U.S. Army, and then shipped to North Africa, then Sicily, then mainland Italy, and then southern France. By the time he reached Holtzwihr in January of 1945, he had been in continuous combat for nearly 2 years. He had been wounded 3 times, and he had watched friends die in numbers that he would never fully speak about. He had also accumulated a combat record that had no parallel in the American military. The decorations tell just part of the story. By the end of the war, Audie Murphy had received 33 awards and decorations from the United States and its allies: the Medal of Honor, 2 Silver Stars, the Legion of Merit, 2 Bronze Stars with Valor, 3 Purple Hearts. French and Belgian decorations on top of those. He had been promoted from private to second lieutenant, battlefield promotions driven entirely by demonstrated performance under fire. He had personally killed, by official military estimate, roughly between 240 or 250 enemy soldiers. The numbers are almost incomprehensible, but numbers alone can never capture what Audie Murphy actually was in combat. His commanders described him as someone who became, under fire, a completely different person. Calm, focused, and decisive in the moments when other men froze or fell back. The small, underfed Texan sharecropper's son had found, in the worst conditions imaginable, the thing that he was extraordinary at. The tragedy was that that discovery cost him. When the war ended, Audie Murphy came home to a hero's welcome that the country generally meant. His face appeared on the cover of Life magazine in 1945. He was celebrated, feted, and photographed. He was the living embodiment of the American war story, the poor kid from nowhere who had fought his way to the top of every measure of military valor that the nation had to offer. Hollywood came calling. He made 44 films over the course of his career, mostly westerns, a genre that suited both his lean physicality and this whole mythology version of American toughness that he had come to represent. His most significant film was To Hell and Back, released in 1955, the adaptation of his own memoir, in which he played himself. It was Universal Pictures' highest grossing film for nearly 2 decades. But behind the movie poster, something was deeply wrong. Audie Murphy came home from the war with what we could today recognize immediately as severe post traumatic stress disorder. The diagnosis did not exist in 1945. The conversation did not exist at all, actually. Men who had seen what he had seen were expected to just come home, put the uniform away, and then get on with it. Murphy could not sleep without a loaded pistol under his pillow. He suffered nightmares so violent that he often slept alone, afraid of what he might do if startled awake. He was addicted to prescription sleeping pills for years, a dependency that he eventually broke by locking himself in a motel room and then going through withdrawal alone. He was prone to explosive anger. His marriages were strained. His finances were perpetually precarious despite his fame. Bad investments and misplaced trust consuming money as fast as the films could generate it. He publicly spoke about his struggles at a time when no one in his position did, advocating for veterans' mental health treatment with a directness that was decades ahead of the national conversation. He actually deserves enormous credit for that. But none of this saved him. Audie Murphy died on May 28, 1971. He was only 45 years old. He was a passenger on a small private plane that crashed into a fog shrouded mountain in Virginia. He was buried with full military honors at Arlington National Cemetery. His grave, deliberately modest, at his own prior request, by the way, indistinguishable in size from those around it, is the second most visited grave in Arlington after John F. Kennedy's. The most decorated soldier in American history asked to be buried the same way as everyone else. And that, again, tells you something about the man. The History Brief. The following comes to us from Strange History by the editors of the Portable Press. Dice go back to before recorded history. The first ones were the ankle bones of animals. Those bones, later called astragali by the Greeks, were roughly cube-shaped with 2 rounded sides that couldn't be landed on and 4 flat ones that could. The first dice throwers weren't gamers. They were religious people who used the astragali as well as sticks, rocks, and animal parts for visions, the practice of telling the future by interpreting signs from the gods. How did these early dice make their way from that to the layman? David Schwartz writes in Roll the Bones, The History of Gambling. The line between divination and gambling is blurred. One hunter, for example, might say to another, "If the bones land short side up, we will search for game to the south. If not, we look north," thus using the astragali to plumb the future. But after the hunt, the hunters might cast bones to determine who would go home with the most desirable cuts. And with that, gambling and dice gaming was born. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today and helping make this little show such a mighty success. If you are enjoying the show and would like to help with its production, you can always donate a few dollars at buymeacoffee.com or become a Patreon member to enjoy these episodes ad-free. Both of those links can be found on our website at www.historyshortspodcast.com. And don't forget to visit our YouTube channel. Have a great rest of your day, and I will talk to you all again tomorrow.